body, it's a big chance for them to come and join us and to understand that it's actually irrelevant whether Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick wins the Tory leadership contest. The brand is broken. It's done. You can't betray people consistently, election after election, manifesto after manifesto, without a massive price to pay.
The rating of Farage's party is growing every day. A new survey has shown that Farage is more popular than Starmer. Just imagine he just recently took office, and his ratings are already at the bottom. He hates the people, and we hate him. His government is lawless. Today we will look in detail at what is happening now. We start watching the first scene.
Next May, we have the English County Council elections. It'll be the first big, genuinely national campaign from Reform UK, and we are throwing the kitchen sink at it. But there are 1,352 Conservative county councillors out there whose seats are up for grabs next time round. Interestingly, a huge number of them genuinely agree with us and what we stand for. You see, the Conservative Party in the country is very different to the Conservative Party in Westminster. So I'm about to send a letter to all 1,352 of them to say, look, we are standing in every single seat in the English county elections. We will not be standing aside for absolutely.
Almost half of the Conservatives want to unite with Reform UK. Of those surveyed, 47% of Conservative Party members were in favour of a merger, with the greatest support among those over 50 and those with lower incomes. Nigel Farage said he would be ready to lead the United Reform Conservative Party after the elections as a national opposition. He said he could not lead the Conservatives in their current form, but predicted that a new party would most likely emerge after the general election. The Tories may be dead. Perhaps this is the end of their journey. I suspect that the old party may split, the surviving right will unite with Farage, and the left will continue to exist as the Liberal Democrats. According to the latest YouGov poll, the Reforms have overtaken the Conservatives, gaining 19% compared with 18% for the Tories.
You know in your heart of hearts that this is 4 years on from peak Boris, when the Conservative Party was doing well, and you know that the vast majority of you are going to lose your seats. But before I select the candidates, and our branches will be picking these by the end of November, before we get the campaign into full swing, I want to give those county councillors who really believe in the country, who understand and know that things need to be turned around because we're in such a state of decline, I want to give them the opportunity to come and join us and stand for Reform UK.
Voters understand that Starmer's Labour is just the flip side of a dirty coin. Britain was let down by its two main parties, which conspired to accelerate our decline. There was absolutely no difference between Labour and the Tories in this election. Both parties are firmly hooked on the addiction to mass immigration. Neither Labour nor the Conservatives have a plan to get the country out of this deep hole. Frankly speaking, 2.5 million migrants have entered our country in the last 2 years alone. People are angry because of the gradual collapse, starting with healthcare and ending with housing construction. At the same time, they have to pay record taxes in peacetime, although salaries practically do not increase. Nigel Farage has stepped up pressure on Keir Starmer, warning that, according to a new survey, voters are now more positive about UK reform than they are about Labour. Farage is ahead of Keir Starmer.
So, it's up to those councillors to decide what they want to do. We're going to stand in every single seat. We won't stand aside for anybody. It's a big chance for them to come and join us and to understand that it's actually irrelevant whether Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick wins the Tory leadership contest. The brand is broken. It's done. You can't betray people consistently, election after election, manifesto after manifesto, without a massive price to pay. So here goes. I'm going to push the...
The Conservatives decided to finally bury their own party. They dragged Johnson in, shouting, "Finally our whole Conservative family is back together." However, for some reason they forgot to call Liz Truss, just to complete the picture. Instead of going on stage with words of support for Sunak, Johnson began and ended with the usual mantras about how strong they were. In general, if it were not for Putin, I do not know what would have been discussed in the election campaigns that the United States, that Britain, that France. It is high time to declare him an honorary citizen of all these countries. His figure in election speeches occupies a more important position than the cost of living crisis, declining living standards, and the crumbling social and other infrastructures of these countries. In general, it seems that the British Conservatives have decided to finally bury their own party. They brought the former Prime Minister to the election rally, to whom their own party expressed a vote of no confidence, and whom their own party called a pathological liar. It shows how desperate the Conservative Party is in Britain. The Labour Party is no better, their policy differs from that of the Conservatives only in terms of rhetoric.
Good evening. Last night we majored on the Sergeant Blake case. I said how sorry I felt for him, a man who'd been put through hell, and his family too, over the course of the last couple of years. And yet, from the AOPC, and indeed the Crown Prosecution Service, no sympathy for him whatsoever, just sympathy for the family of Chris Cabba. Things get worse. You know, we learn now that the police officer faces possible misconduct hearings. We also learn that the jury wanted with their verdict, their unanimous verdict, a note read out which said they did not believe this case should ever have come to court, and yet the judge chose not to read it.
Sergeant Martin Blake was acquitted of murder. After the restrictions on the publication of information were lifted, it became known that Chris Cabba, who was shot by Sergeant Blake, was associated with the Gang 67 from Brixton Hill. Chris Cabba was accused of shooting a rival in the legs in a nightclub just 6 days before being detained by police. If he had survived, he would have been tried for attempted murder. Sergeant Blake had to leave his home due to the fact that criminals, eager to avenge Cabba's death, put a reward of £10,000 on his head. During the preliminary hearing, it became known that the accomplices of the Gang of 67 planned to kill a policeman in revenge for Cabba's death. Sergeant Blake was in a state of constant fear, fearing that Cabba's accomplices might harm his loved ones. To protect him, the judge extended the ban on publishing his address, photos, or any descriptions of his appearance.
And what was astonishing last night was to sit here with a couple of, long-term police officers who explained to me that last year only 6 people volunteered to join the firearms squad. I don't know how you feel about this case, about Chris Cabba, about what's been said, but we do need good police, don't we?
We need good police, but the Met have shown time and time again that they can't be trusted. Whether it's policing black communities, whether it's policing women, the Met Police have proven that we cannot trust them from anyone of any walk of life, unless perhaps you're a white male, perhaps then you are safer than a woman.
There are 30,000 police officers missing. Due to low salaries, increasing workload, and a ban on strikes, a record number of employees quit, leaving the once prestigious service in a deplorable state. And given the rapid population growth and the surge in crime, 50,000 people are needed to make a difference. 8,117 officers left the armed forces of England and Wales during the year, the highest figure. And 1,800 officers recruited under the so-called advanced training program have already resigned. Meanwhile, at least 9 police officers a day apply to move to Western Australia, which attracts them with starting salaries of £47,000, free housing, accelerated acquisition of Australian citizenship, and 6 weeks of paid leave. Police officers in England and Wales usually start with a salary of £21,000.
But there was, unusually for me, sitting in the House of Commons this afternoon, a piece of good news, because this is what the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said.
When officers act in the most dangerous situations on behalf of the state, it is vital that those officers and their families are not put in further danger during any subsequent legal proceedings. So we will therefore introduce a presumption of anonymity for firearms officers subject to criminal trial following a police shooting in the course of their professional duties up to the point of conviction.
Well, in light of what's happened, that must be a good thing. And you probably heard me, I was one of the loudest cheers there in the chamber. I don't want anyone to go through what this police sergeant has been through. It just seems to be wrong at almost every angle. And yet, not everybody was impressed.
The Home Secretary said that new rules in England and Wales would mean that armed police officers would remain anonymous. The identities of armed police officers who are charged after they open fire on suspects are likely to remain secret in the future, unless they are convicted. The statement was made after the acquittal of Martin Blake. It took the jury only 3 hours to unanimously find him not guilty. Blake faced threats after he shot Cabba. When police officers act in the most dangerous situations on behalf of the state, it is imperative that these officers and their families are not put in further danger during any subsequent court proceedings. What do you think about this video? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you.